Reddit. I'm a 23-year-old male and have absolutely zero interest in sports of any kind. What's one thing that seems to be a huge part of your society that you don't understand? I'm a German who hates sauerkraut. American Idol. A couple of weeks ago, I accidentally bumped this guy's car, and as we were working out the details of payment for damages and such, he starts asking me if I follow the show and goes on about how amazing the contestants are this season. I just smiled and nodded my head. I am a 24-year-old Asian male. I do not like anime and I do not play video games. I am a damaged Asian. Asian is a bit vague. In order for us to customize our stereotypes to you, we need to know what kind of Asian in particular. Your cooperation in this matter will result in a better and more fitting stereotyping experience. I describe my relationship with sports as I do my relationship with poetry. I can appreciate the skill involved. I get why other people might like it, but it's not something I really want to spend my time with. I watched a few minutes of a really violent hockey game last night. NY Ottawa, and it occurs to me that poetry would be better if there was a penalty box and sometimes people got tossed out of the game entirely. Going to clubs. Not fun. Never fun. How do people think it is fun? Because you get to talk like this, and have people still not hear a word you're saying, then spill drinks and ash all over you, and other wankers bump into you and attempt to invoke a negative confrontation, and best of all, to top it off, you get to spend 3 times as much on drinks as you would from a liquor store. Don't talk to me about celebrities. I am likely not going to know who you are talking about. I consider shows like Entertainment Tonight worse than reality TV. It's just absolute garbage. 22-year-old girl here. Designer purses. Don't get me wrong. I'm willing to spend way too much money on cute clothes and accessories, but the appeal of super expensive purses seems to lie entirely in having a bag plastered with logos. I don't get it. Reality TV and the people who watch it. Texting. Don't get me wrong, I do text, but it seems like everyone I know texts all day, every day, non-stop. I'll text someone if I need to tell them something and they're not online in some way, or I'll call them if it's important. I don't get how people just constantly text all day long. It would drive me nuts. Especially since so many people get mad when you don't text them back immediately. I am a 27-year-old woman and every other girl I meet is dumbfounded by the fact that I have no interest in having a wedding. I've had friends that have had weddings with over 500 people, and God knows how much money they spent on it. I wouldn't mind getting married. It's the idea of having the wedding day that seems like a huge waste of time and money. I just don't get it. Right there with you. My mom is a wedding planner on the weekends and she always wants to talk about my dream wedding. I usually just tell her 2 AM. In Vegas. I think she's given up on that dream. Southern male. Frick NASCAR. I'm the opposite. Live up north and people trash it to no end, but I freaking love NASCAR. I'm into sports, beer, etc. Everything you would include as normal society. One thing I have zero knowledge of is popular music. I have no clue what is going on in music today, of any genre. I'm a classical musician and the time I spend listening to music is music that's relevant to my job, and frankly music that I find more engaging. I don't dislike popular music by any means, but I just choose not to listen to it. If someone tries to talk to me about music today, I will have no clue what they are saying, other than yes, I recognize some of these words. Twitter. 20/male clubbing is just the worst. I don't understand flirting at all. I can talk to a girl, but even the thought of coming onto her feels like I'd be attacking her. What I don't understand is what quantifies as flirting. I'm very capable of chatting with girls and joking around, but that's how I am with most people. It's easy to tell when other people are flirting, but when am I flirting is the question that bugs me. Did you see that ludicrous display last night? The thing about Arsenal is, they always try to walk it in. Funny, I'm a 34-year-old white male who doesn't know crap about cars. I know more about the internal workings of the human brain than I do about the engine under my car's hood. However, I am a die-hard Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I have been since I was old enough to argue about football. I hate American Idol along with Dancing with the Stars. What the frick is with everyone and zombies? 18-year-old girl here, and I still don't understand why most of my gender is obsessed with shoes. One of my best friends has 90 plus pairs. Is that really necessary? I have 4 pairs. 2 pairs of sneakers, a pair of flats, and a pair of boots, and that's definitely enough for me. Just wait till you start college. Then all you need are a pair of Uggs and flip-flops. I couldn't understand the sports thing at all until I started watching StarCraft 2. I still think watching typical sports are boring, but I can understand why they like them now. One night stands. They are just not my thing. I like to know a girl's middle name. Seriously, you can frick 50 random girls, nothing will beat fricking someone who you have a consistent history with. Getting married and having children. A lot of folk can't seem to reconcile a female that doesn't want to be a mother and a wife. Sometimes I feel like a leper for being 25 and childless in my area. No thanks, have cats. Network television sitcoms. Many of them are quite popular, but I just have no interest for whatever reason. Also frick everything about laugh tracks, it makes a show seem cheap and gaudy. I honestly don't get Facebook. Why do people spend hours on there, then constantly talk about it when not on it? It's not as interesting like Reddit, which I can spend hours on. I get the convenience of it, but those who constantly update, like and share just baffle me. I, and most of my friends, use it for its chat function. People tend to be on there often and it's quicker than texting calling. I organize quite a lot of social events through FB. I have absolutely no interest in football, soccer, and I am from the UK. I have no friends. Be expecting I'll mail any day now. Starbucks, I don't really understand the appeal. What makes it different from any other coffee shop? Coffee culture. $5 for a latte with a meal's worth of calories and a truckload of cream and sugar? No thanks. Living around your smartphone. I like my smartphone. I can watch videos at work, browse the net from bed, and check my email whenever. But when I'm at home and relaxing, I keep it as far away from me as possible. If my phone died for a week or I left it at home, I wouldn't miss it. For some people I know, it's all they talk about. Drinking. I never understood the appeal. I don't mind the odd glass of wine, but binge drinking or drinking frequently seems to be something everyone likes to do. You feel great at the time, but the next day you always feel a little off. It was awesome for 6 months when I turned legal age. After that, I can really drink a few times a year, but mostly a glass of wine with dinner and I'm set. Leisure activity elitism. Why is this a thing? Why is playing a video game for 2 hours considered a waste of time while watching a movie is considered a more meaningful endeavor? Why is watching TV show X considered trashy while watching TV show Y is supposedly telling about your personality? Don't even get me started on book readers. I like reading books, but I don't circle a jerk over it. At the end of the day, it's your leisure time to wind down and enjoy yourself. Enjoy it any way you wish. I never thought about leisure activity elitism. Good point. College basketball. I live in Kentucky, Alcohol. Seriously, I don't get what the big deal is with it. Instead of my parents trying to ward me away from the stuff, my parents actually tried to convince me to drink. Even now, I still don't care all that much for it. I don't know if it is a norm, but drugs. I am not talking about crack and H, but party drugs and weed. I know so many people that live for that crap and I never understood it. I have nothing against people who use them, but it's just not for me and I will never really understand the attraction to them. And before anyone says it, yes, I have tried them and still don't see what's so great. Hey, 22-year-old stoner here. I completely understand. I actually don't care what religion you are. Oh, you're atheist. That's cool. Oh, you're Christian. That's cool. Oh, you're a Satanist. That's cool. I don't understand why people sling the insults at each other. It just creates more hate that we don't need. Agreed. My philosophy is that so long as you aren't hurting anyone, I couldn't give less of a frick. Cars. Seriously, I use a car to get to where I need to go. I don't need the fastest or best looking or the loudest or anything. I just want the thing to be reliable and economic on fuel. Apparently that's too much to ask. Having a boyfriend girlfriend dating, not dating in general, but the intents need to be with someone, anyone, even if you don't like them that much and you aren't that compatible. I don't understand the obsession with just dating for the sake of it. Can you see yourself with that person 10 years from now? Okay, just 5'2"? No, then why? Kids, I don't understand them and I don't like them. I'm 23 and male. My parents are in my face every day about getting married and having kids already. I still have time, Mom. Anime. I'm sorry Reddit, I just don't see the appeal. Most of my friends see anime like you do, and that is fine. But I just wish that if I want to watch it they don't have to talk down to me. I don't bother them when they are watching Big Brother or something like that. I don't watch TV, so conversations about this show or that commercial go completely over my head. Same goes for popular music. I don't watch MTV, and my favorite, only, radio station is NPR. Drinking and the bar scene. Never understood the appeal. I went with my dorm buddies to a uni bar and had a few beers and never figured out the appeal of it and the various bars I got dragged along to. Frankly, I was bored out of my mind sitting there drinking something that I found rancid to the taste. I started buying cokes and telling the bartender I was the designated driver. I spent most of my time playing pool with some old guy to keep from falling asleep at the booth, and then having to escort all of my friends back to their rooms. I took 2 showers just to get the smell of cigarettes and stale drinks off of me. Then I was privy to the hangover complaints the very next day. How do people find going through all this enjoyable on a regular basis? Seriously, I don't understand this. I find more fun hanging out, enjoying a movie, video games, or even just sitting on the balcony having a good deep discussion. I don't understand how people can listen to mainstream modern rap right now. It's so freaking bad. Words simply can't describe it. I'm the German who hates bear. You monster. Cable TV. Everyone I know wants me to get it but I see no need. All of the shows I watch I can find online, legally for that matter. What's the point of dropping $50 a month on something I will never use? I don't remember how the conversation started, but this girl found out that I didn't play video games. She was shocked. You're a guy and you don't play video games. She just couldn't believe it, and she almost made it sound like it was a bad thing. I told another friend about it and she said it's not that weird that you don't play video games, but the fact that you don't watch sports is truly weird. I'm a musician. Why can't I just dedicate myself to my passions without feeling like I'm being judged for not liking what most other guys like? You aren't being judged. Being surprised is different from judging someone. And why the heck more people don't do it? What's the biggest sign for someone being out of touch with society? You millennials and your participation trophies. Yeah, thanks mom. You wanted that so that you wouldn't feel bad about having an average kid. Don't look at me like I'm at fault for those. Best response to that I've ever seen. A former boss, an incredibly great guy, but also someone who has been worth upwards of 100 million since the time he was about 20, once spotted me cash for lunch, handed me $2 100 bills and asked if that was enough. I'm having 21 bananas for lunch so it's a little short. In the UK, journalists ask politicians about the cost of basic grocery items, or see how out of touch they are. If they don't know how much a loaf of bread or pint of milk costs, then they are out of touch. Our last Prime Minister apparently had a crib sheet with info about this, current songs in the charts, etc. He even pretended to support a football team. Ah, yes, I know that Black Eyed Peas cost 50 cents in the clubs. I was at a small conference in 2014, and one of the organizers was basically a real-life Ned Flanders. Middle-aged, but very boring and vanilla. Might have actually thought babies were delivered by storks, not midwives. At one point, he asked if everyone could write their email numbers on a piece of paper being passed around. Email numbers, in 2014. Best thing I've ever heard. I had a consultant tell me we needed to focus on non-tech solutions. Like this whole tech craze is just going to blow over. We're a tech company. Having a swastika tattoo on your forehead. I kid you not. I know someone who had one, then wisely had it removed once he got out of jail. Now he's got a swastika shaped scar on his forehead. I guess then people might give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you were the victim of a hate crime. A young 20-year-old once said to me, also 20, "Why don't you just have your parents pay for it?" He wasn't trying to be a dong. He genuinely thought everyone's parents will just buy them a $350 ski lift season pass. They don't understand that even though they don't care if they smell as if they haven't showered in weeks, the people that they interact with do care. I've got a co-worker who doesn't shower more than once every 2 weeks, and I can always tell when she's in the office or where she's been in the office. No one says anything. Oh god, that must be horrible. They don't come into the office on Fridays to hand out paychecks to their employees because what's the big deal? You can wait to get it on Monday. Department of Labor would be interested to hear about that. No one has to use the internet. Try finding a job, paying bills, booking a ticket, or even getting into college without the internet. My dad, whose job would not exist without the internet, has said this in conversation. He was being 100% serious, too. My father is 80 years old but has been a pariah his whole life. Although it's slightly more excusable now that he's elderly, he has spent his whole life alienating himself, even from his own children, and then blaming everyone but himself. And the reasons he comes up with are insane. You didn't want to be an engineer? You must be lazy and bad at math. Your brother married into a wealthy Jewish family? Guess I better become anti-Semitic. You have a tattoo? What a fad. And his whole life has been like that. He invents reasons why people don't like him, such as his old boss not liking him because he didn't like people who grew up on a farm. As a result, in his old age, he is single and rarely sees his kids and grandkids. We recently started planning a birthday celebration for him, which he promptly took over all of the planning for. It's going to be a disaster. Sounds like his parents criticized him right out of reality. In my school, a group of students were selling goodie bags for their project, and some dude literally just took something from their goods without paying. Later in class, his fuckwit doesn't even deny he literally stole something. He actually admitted that he stole something, but instead he tried to justify his action by saying in the store this doesn't even cost $1. Everyone in class, except for his other cool friends, just couldn't believe how this kid was struggling to understand that stealing is not okay. Even though 5 people were literally trying to talk sense into him, he just wouldn't grasp the concept of stealing and even got verbally aggressive at some of them. It just wouldn't get into this kid's head that stealing anything is not acceptable. BTW, this clown is 18 years old and wants to become a police officer, which makes this whole ordeal very ironic. In the end, he was forced to pay the price by the principal. Sadly, no more sanctions were held on him. Very ironic. He could stop others from stealing things, but not from himself. I knew a man who didn't know how to save money. He lived with his rich parents until his mid-30s and never bought any food, toiletries. First thing he did when he moved out was to buy an apartment and a brand new Mercedes. He was in a lot of debts. Even if he has a great job, he didn't seem to understand sales, and I don't think he ever heard of coupons. I took him shopping and it was like an awakening for him. I can honestly say I know that I'm out of touch with society when it comes to the workforce. I'm almost 30 and only have had 4 jobs. Every single one was through a family friend. I landscaped and did construction with no resume application, not even an interview. I was just told to show up. After college, I told a family friend what I studied and they needed a person in that area of expertise at their small company. Again, I was just told to show up. They showed me the ropes and now I have a real career with an important sounding job title. I know I'm lucky, and I also know this is not typical for most people. That's why my only advice to my friends is to network as much as they can. It's more about who you know than what you know when it comes to job searches. They watch a lot of cable news programs. They actually believe insane things such as that we live in more violent and scary times than previous generations. Hint, this is hands down the most peaceful time in human history in basically every way you could possibly define it. Complaining about how young people aren't independent enough and need to move out on their own sooner and get less help from their parents. These people act like ties to family and community resources are ruining young people. This view is out of touch with the large portion of the world's population in which young people don't leave their family's home until they are ready to be married and join a new family home. When someone screams about poor homeless people having cell phones and says they need to be pounding the pavement for a job, like how do you expect them to apply, to keep in touch with work, get called for interviews? There's so many people out of touch with how technology driven the world is now. People who I know make $40,000 a year and have multiple kids yet insist that they are middle class. Yes, you may have been raised middle class, and yes, you have a degree, but making $40,000 as a single parent with multiple kids means that you are probably 1 or 2 missed paychecks away from ruin. It's not to denigrate those people, there's nothing wrong with them. They just have been told that they are on a better position than they are, and probably want to believe that they are. This is why the poor seemingly vote against their own interests in some cases. People don't believe they're poor. My grandma complains about Aboriginal people being lazy and that they're all uneducated because they didn't finish high school. My grandma didn't finish high school and nor did one of her children. My mom just shared this story with me. She was sitting at a picnic table outside of a dormitory at the University of South Alabama when a dude came up to her and asked if she wanted to talk about religion. He asked if she believed in Jesus, and she said no. He said, "What if I told you all the fossils were fake?" My mom noped out of there fast. Being poor is a choice, and how easy it is to get out of being poor. First off, it's not always by choice. You can make a decent salary but barely have crap to show for it because of where you live. Then there's unexpected events with the expenses and debts, divorce, medical bills, etc. That'll eat away your income to try and pay those off. I've had my soft-aching broke days when a 99-cent taco from Taco Bell was considered a splurge. Getting out of being poor isn't easy. It takes loads of time, work and personal sacrifices to do it. The worst is when people judge someone for using food stamps, especially when they are wearing nice clothes and drive a decent car. You don't know their story. Their husband could have just died, and they were a stay-at-home mom and haven't worked in 10 years, yet they still have the assets but no income. Sorry, people don't look poor enough to fit your mental image of poverty. When they look at someone who works their butt off, and see that they don't have a nice car or a house or anything, and say, that person should have tried harder, or if the hard worker mentions benefits that would keep them fit for work, or heavens forbid might just improve their quality of living. What a lazy socialist. When they see someone doing a non-office job, and assume the person doesn't pay their own bills, like your pizza driver. Don't tell him, but maybe you can get a coffee with it. LOL, I made more money doing pizza delivery than I do at my office job where I have to be licensed and take SEC courses. It was far less stressful as well. You don't have a job, you're not trying hard enough. Hit the pavement and hand out resumes. Buddy, oh, get a job, just get a job. Why don't I strap on my job helmet and squeeze down into a job cannon and fire off into jobland, where jobs grow on jobbies. You can't say jobby in Scotland, it means poop. Thinking that, as a kid, getting your maids and servants to be customers at your lemonade stand, because you set it up in your dad's big, gaudy tower is making the best of a bad situation. I met a homeschooling family who didn't allow their kids to know about any crisis, violence or attack in America. The 17-year-old never heard about 9/11 terrorist attack. One day those children will enter the real world and be riddled with crippling anxiety. Showing no empathy for other people. Also, anyone that can hurt a pet is someone that could easily hurt a human. There are some seriously sick buttholes out there. I don't think that's old being out of touch with society more than it is being a psychopath. When they believe crime has gotten worse over the last 20 years. When they believe global warming either 1. isn't real, or 2. isn't caused, in whole or in substantial part, by human actions. When they believe crime has gotten worse over the last 20 years, crime rates have probably gotten lower, it's just more efficiently reported nowadays. When your wealthy teenage niece comes over to hang with your daughter, driving a newer, nicer car than yours, and then casually slams said nicer, newer car as a piece of crap because it's used and whatever and is completely unaware that the person she just complained about the nicer, newer car is a head of household provider who worked more than one job at a time in the last 5 years, never asked for any help, and managed to buy and pay off that older, not so nice looking car in the driveway, completely unaware of herself, her values, her very presence. She is going to a mucho expensive fashion college in NYC because it was something to do and she really has no passion or talent for fashion. This is a silver spoon-fed risky behavior engaging bored wealthy teen who comes to my house in a sweatshirt and cutoffs. I have never once heard her express any interest in fashion. She didn't even want to learn how to sew. I sew and sew well. Taught by my mother who was a seamstress, and thought it looked boring. She is basically going to an expensive butt school in NYC for something to do and has no idea that it is outrageously expensive and very close to impossible for anyone but the wealthy to afford. She is being raised like a total butt and I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for the rich kid who gets everything handed to her. She has no values whatsoever, lies and steals. I read that faster and faster as it went on. Here's one I experienced a few days ago, when faced with the issue of how Walmart doesn't pay their employees a living wage. This guy tells me, the thing is, they have the choice to work there or not. If they don't like working there, they can always go find a different job. I said to him, I don't know if that's true. I think for a lot of small towns, Walmart may be one of the biggest employers in their town. There might not be other job openings for things they can do. They can work in a factory. I've always able to find jobs when I didn't like one. And you have a good back, 2 working legs, no major injuries, no criminal record, no severe learning disability. Take away any one of those things, and you might not have such an easy time finding work in a factory. And a lot of the people I see working at Walmart have all of those things. At that point I'll let him just continue his rant. That was the point when I knew he was the kind of person to believe they can tell all about a person from looking at them without speaking to them. I don't know about you, but I can't always just look at a person and tell whether or not they have a health condition that would limit them from routinely lifting 50 pounds. I've talked to people who have worked at Walmart, and none of them liked it. Posting this on my alt because the guy knows my main Reddit account. A guy I know legitimately asked if it was socially acceptable to have his anime figures prominently visible during a job interview over Skype. I was giving a tour of a locomotive repair facility and ran into a mechanic who had grease on his hands and overalls. One of my tour attendees, a woman in her 60s, said, I could never do that job. I hate getting dirty. I hate sweating too. Whenever I go to the gym I walk on the treadmill until I start sweating. Then I stop and go home. I had a coworker who would poop and get it all over the toilet seat when he wiped. He knew the cosmetics girls had to clean the bathrooms but he never bothered to clean up his own mess. He just didn't see the problem in making us clean his poop up. When our boss confronted him about it the guy just said that it was our job to clean and we shouldn't be complaining about doing our jobs. I feel like he was incredibly out of touch. Someone constantly trying to outsource their own problems. Whether it's the government, the corporations or society, they've always got a problem with it. Not saying there aren't serious issues with the world but it's probably not the man keeping you down. I had a roommate like this. Nothing was ever her fault. It was her ex's fault, or the landlord's fault, or the neighbor's fault, except it was actually all her fault. If they start loudly and confidently making statements about politically divisive topics in a room of people, looking for affirmative support, without having accurately discerned their general stance on the subject, receiving a class on new transgender protection policies in the workplace, in a room full of people who largely lean left on social issues, probably not the place to openly question the validity of the basis for someone identifying as transgender, or the need to have a policy for treating them appropriately at work. Waking up early, taking a shower, Heading to school halfway there. Hey, where are all the people? Head back home. National holiday today. First 2 hours of my day today. Car salespeople paying attention only to the male if a couple goes in looking for a car, or asking if a woman's husband or father is okay with her trading in their vehicle, or steering a chick away from trucks and towards the sedans. Women buy cars on their own, and being sexist is a good way to lose a sale. Ditto mobile phone salespeople. There's a guy in my university that seems to believe that radical left-wingers are responsible for each and every problem we have in the world. Now, I know there are people who are the polar opposite, think the same of right-wingers, but since I have to listen to his BS on a daily, I'll complain only about him. I live in the America, so I can only speak about it. That being said, Americans on both sides treat politics like it's fricking sports. They think the other side has to lose for you to win. Here's a thought. Politicians work for us and in the end we're all supposed to win. Idiots. My taxes just go to the obese person eating at McDonald's with health issues. From the guy who doesn't work, pays no taxes, married to a woman who does work, pays all the taxes, and conveniently forgets that taxes go to a whole slew of important things. But don't worry, see, he doesn't need health insurance cause he has homeopathy. We won't need to worry about that one much longer. YUN0 Ramak, you make X amount of dollars. Now, how are you still living paycheck to paycheck? This student debt is going to pay for itself. I was looking for work and my dad told me about a job that you need a lot of experience for. I told him I had no experience and he said that wouldn't stop me, yeah, but it would, Dad. Wealth. This isn't meant as a declaration of class warfare or anything, but the wealthy are often insulated from many of the day-to-day activities and problems that make the common man what he is. The ever-present needs of a roof over your head, food on the table, good education for your children, reliable transportation, medical care, etc. These are struggles that are so fundamental for the low and middle class that most of their lives are spent attending to them. This also isn't to say that the wealthy don't work hard, or that they don't have struggles of their own. It's just that they're not the same. If I'm in the top 5% of incomes, there is very little chance, even in a crisis, of my family going hungry, becoming homeless, or not being able to access good healthcare. Those worries are essentially never on my mind. What new obnoxious traits are you noticing in society? All of my local cinemas stopped showing those turn off your phone ads before movies, and everyone uses their dang phone in the cinema, with the backlight on full. I even saw some kids taking pictures of the movie screen, with flash. That's one of the reasons I don't mind overpaying for tickets at the Alamo Drafthouse. They clearly state, and follow through, that they will kick you out with no refund if you're using your electronic device. Stopping in the middle of the sidewalk without realizing that there are people walking behind them. Most of this is tied to phones, but I live in a large city and it's the easiest way to spot a tourist. Especially when it's a group of people in front walking side by side taking up the whole sidewalk. If you have to make a sudden stop, move to the side. Traffic is nothing new, but I feel like the stop and go traffic has gotten significantly worse since the rise of smartphones. If you're at a standstill, you check your phone for a little bit without realizing traffic started moving again, delaying the folks behind you, and it just causes a frustrating chain reaction. The worst of this is at red lights. It's unbelievable how someone who is first in line at a red light could sit there fricking with their phone knowing dang well that there are people behind them. As we enter an age of immense information, the most annoying but true thing, for me, as well, is that people feel confident in the information they find and take it as truth if it reinforces their own ideals. It's basically just accelerated justification bias. But it happens to us all, sometimes subconsciously. Because most people want affirmation, not information. People playing games, watching videos, etc., with the sound on in public spaces. Worst is when parents are just sitting there letting their kids play games and watch kids stuff on YouTube with the volume really loud, as it's easier than actually interacting with them and teaching them spatial awareness. Seems to be oddly accepted now. I get embarrassed if I click on something in a public place and it plays a sound for even a few seconds before I can shut it off. When you're trying to look up a recipe and have to read through this person's entire life story just to figure out what temp you preheat the oven to. People using their phones during a movie or performance. Stop that crap. If you can't stay off your phone for a couple hours, maybe you should go outside or not go to the show at all. I went to a theater show recently. Staff were stationed everywhere specifically to pounce on anyone who got their phones out. It was brilliant to see people get instantly shamed. The girl assigned our small section alone had to tell at least 5 people. HR departments run companies. The last round of middle management promotions at my workplace was beyond laughable. Work performance and competency have been replaced by those who show and smile while failing. It pains me to see people who actually work hard and do a good job get passed by regularly. I call it the rubber floor effect. Dumbasses fall on their faces but somehow bounce back higher than before. Parents are afraid to tell their kids no. I work in a college setting and I hate when a parent calls and starts the phone call with my daughter is in grad school and needs. Like frick off. How are they in graduate school but can't request this themselves? I seriously hate my job because I will tell a parent the student needs to request a sensitive document and they flip crap on me. My boss takes online classes for her daughter. Fills out her daughter FAFSA forms, registers her for class and uses her school account to communicate with the professors while pretending to be her daughter. It's so beyond ridiculous and she acts like it's totally normal. Watched a mom let her kid walk into traffic because she was too busy looking at her phone. I guess you would call that a lack of awareness. That's not obnoxious. That's extremely dangerous and stupid. People getting rude because they had to wait longer than they wanted to for a service. Example, Target line was long and a woman was stating her complaints, purposely louder than necessary, so everyone could hear her. She then bitched at the poor cashier. Have some patience, people. We have the internet now, and on the internet ignorance is a choice, but people are still choosing ignorance by looking at garbage and not bothering to learn about things. It's really interesting when someone is asked to do further research and they get really angry. People in restaurants or somewhere public with their phone or tablet's volume set way too high. Generally I see it with parents giving their toddlers a tablet with the sound cranked. Too many times I can hear it from a few tables down. Either turn the volume to a low level, or give them some dang headphones. Bluetooth speaker at the gym. Are you freaking kidding me? I know it exists, but it is just ridiculous to see adults share their emotions or problems in Facebook. I mean, it is entirely possible to talk about it privately to someone, but broadcasting your hate towards a person really damages the credibility of adults. Anytime I see I'm so over fake people post, my friends list gets shorter and higher in quality. People expecting you to contact them, and then, seeing a poor me nobody ever calls texts invites me social media update when they never contact you. My mom used to do this and she really didn't like when I pointed out that the phones work both ways. Flaky non-committal people everywhere these days. I'll ask my friend what he's up to tonight, he says he'll let me know, and then nothing. It's gotten to the point where if I don't get a straight answer about plans from any of my friends, I assume it's a no and move on with my day. It's a pseudo catch-22. They don't want to upset you by declining, but they also don't want to go, so they just say maybe. Some people do take it very personally if you decline their invitation, but I'd take a decline, or a simple no, thanks, over a maybe anytime. People sometimes give attitude if you don't promptly respond to their texts. They wonder if you're ignoring them when, in fact, you're simply not able to reply at the moment. The mob responds to everything and the overreactions to evade it. Store wouldn't do X, angry mob and death threats. Worker does Y, fired for following rules to avoid the angry mob. It's terrifying. Who will the angry mob choose next? Maybe me, maybe you. It's like that Black Mirror episode about the artificial bees. I see a lot of people inventing their own reality and then they insulate themselves with equally horrible people. Morality is relative. Truth is subjective, and if we can just fool enough people into buying our bulls, well, that is great success. People don't express their honest opinion, subject themselves to criticism and try to learn from it. Often what they say and what they do are completely divorced because words are just a tool they use to manipulate people, and the only thing you can trust them to do is be selfish. I can't remember the last time I heard someone say, you know, I was wrong, or I don't know. No one can ever admit fault or apologize. Very few people are sincere. Just left my friend of over a decade because he is so far inside himself there's nothing else to see. People intentionally using smartphones and tablets to keep their kids occupied at social outings. The technology itself isn't new, but I've only started noticing people doing this very recently. It's weird seeing a family eating at a restaurant, and their toddler is just sitting there with giant headphones on and watching Paw Patrol or something, completely oblivious to the world around him. You ask a question or make a statement and the person responds with an answer to a commonly asked question, which has nothing to do with what you said. How old is this monkey? It's not for sale. This idea that everyone has to move out of their way no matter what. It used to be, when passing someone in a store or whatever, there was this unspoken rule. You both move slightly out of the way to clear the gap so that everyone has enough room to pass and there is no disrespect. The gesture of both people moving, a silent acknowledgement that we are both human and deserve respect. That doesn't happen anymore. Choosing crappy sources of information when all the world's knowledge is at our fingertips. Propaganda and misinformation has always been a tool of the powerful to keep themselves in power, but the internet democratized information. And now that we have access to more information than we could ever consume, a lot of people seem content to not put any effort into figuring out what's true and what isn't. It's all about how it feels rather than figuring out the objective truth. As long as it suits their beliefs, it's true to them and everyone else is wrong. Social media bubbles certainly don't help with this and probably are to blame. Playing music out loud on terrible sounding Bluetooth speakers while in public. How and why is this coming back? And why are they all listening to mumble rap? Or worse, playing the same thing full blast on their phone speaker. People who videotape entire concerts as if they're actually going to go back and watch the video. It's a live concert for a reason. Be present for it. I don't know if anyone else in customer service has noticed this, but people have gotten even more entitled, if that's possible. It's to the point that I think many people are out of touch with reality and how businesses operate, and they take it oh so freaking personally. No, we don't have this in inventory, and I swear to God it's not because I have a personal vendetta against you. We just sold out and no, we're not getting any back because it's end of season. There's no grand conspiracy at play to keep it off the shelves. And no, I can't order you a new one because this crap ships from freaking China, Mexico, Bangladesh, India, etc. It's not made and shipped from down the street or something, but they really want it. So obviously there is something I can do, and if I don't, I'm a horrible human being who doesn't care about them. I had a woman literally curse me over the phone because I didn't have the answer she wanted about a product. Legit. She told me she hoped I had a horrible week and such. I told all my co-workers and family that if I died that week it was her fault. People feeling the need to be connected at all times. When did people become so scared of losing a Snapchat streak? When did people start worrying so much about other people's lives? Having an opinion about anything and everything, just for the sake of everyone knowing you have an opinion. P.S. Being opinionated and being informed are two very different things. Maybe this is just in New York City, but I've noticed a lot of people FaceTiming, video chatting with friends while walking on the sidewalk. Do you really need someone to see your face while you cluelessly walk around in public? When baby boomers are accusing me of acting entitled and lazy because I'm not where they were in life at my age. My parents had their house's down payment paid by their parents, their wedding paid by their parents, and my dad had minimal student debt from a private college that was paid off before I was born. My mom was able to stay home with me and my brother. Meanwhile, I'll be paying off my debt well into my late 30s. I'm 30 now. From a state school. We paid for our own wedding. I live in a house half as big as my folks that I bought with my and my husband's money, with no help from relatives because we need to earn our way. We both work 2 jobs and are being accused of being selfish because we don't want to have kids yet, and I had 2 kids when I was your age. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing with the boomer thing, but I'm only getting flack from old folks, and all the people that are further in life than me at my age had lots of help. You cannot disagree with anyone without becoming a snowflake, cuck, libtard or conservative, etc. Jesus, when did everyone get so damn touchy? It's the new way of arguing that's taken over discourse. There is no need to argue against anyone's point when you're able to just invalidate their existence as being some sort of easily dismissed caricature. Make no mistake, this will be around for a while, and like terrorism likely will never truly leave. I really dislike how black and white everything is nowadays. If there's an issue in society, you are either on the right side or you're a freaking Nazi libtard etc. The liberal use of the term hacked, lose in a video game, hacked, find a cool trick to doing something mundane, life hack, know how to delete undesirable programs files, hacker. That is bad. I also hate the use of P like subreddits do. I want to show someone a cool picture. Here, let me go to our earth porn real quick. Entitled parents with obnoxious children who expect everyone around them to cater exclusively to their child's needs and have no respect for public spaces. Absolute pet peeve and not how I remember my childhood. Brewery worker here. Pessimism is going to kill the beer industry. It's shocking how bad it's gotten. You can see it all the time in any beer subreddit. No one can just be happy about beer. It's impossible for us to just make a good beer. Every IPA is just a member of a bandwagon. Every lager isn't as good as X. Every stout is a gimmick. I'm freaking sick of it. I just want to make beer. It's this reverse phenomenon of the reverse circular jerk. In some ways, it's always been part of the scene. Everyone thought the craft beer bubble would burst. It did in the 90s. And since then everyone acts like they're on the edge of another. I have an article from 2006 asking when will the craft beer bubble burst again, and it still hasn't happened, and every 3 months some butthole writing for a food magazine writes about it. I'm freaking sick of it. And the worst is the recommenders who come in and whine about our American styles and ask why we can't make a Kolsch Fueze and cream ale, and then we make it and no one buys it. My favorite kind of beer drinker is the kind who can sit down with any beer, enjoy it, maybe critique it a bit, and not act like every beer I brew is a comment on the industry signaling the end of beer as we know it. Dating, and especially online dating, turned into absolute crap. I still think Tinder should have never been invented. Ruined so much. You can try Bumble. It forces the women to make the first move. So instead of sending a bunch of messages and not getting a reply, you can just skip the first part and get straight to the not getting a reply part. People being aggressively defensive when they're obviously in the wrong. Simple example. Yesterday, while walking downtown, I saw a group of 20-somethings walk out directly in front of oncoming traffic. When they got inevitably honked at by multiple cars, they give the middle finger to the cars who had just graciously stopped to not hit them. That kind of crappy entitled behavior drives me crazy, and I feel like I'm seeing more and more of it lately. Arrogant buttholes. What is the most messed up thing that is accepted in today's society? Politicians getting away with blatantly not giving a frick about doing anything in the interests of the people they are supposed to be representing. It's staggering how much blatant lying goes on in UK government these days. Politicians just stand up and say stuff that isn't true, and if anyone objects they get lampooned for stoking division or some crap. It blows me away how consistently these suckers get away with it. Nobody does anything about it. Rewarding lying, deceitful, crap behavior, and punishing people who try to play by the rules, and discouraging honesty and respect. F in the chat for Bernie. That there are people whose job it is to influence us and try and change our behavior without us realizing. It's creepy as heck, but it's just accepted. The UK has an entire government department dedicated to trying to alter people's behavior without us realizing. It's called the Nudge Unit. It's creep AF. How education is simply a business. Go into a lifetime's worth of debt to get an education and be greeted with no jobs. Agreed. If your boyfriend abuses you, he is toxic and you are expected to leave. If your family abuses you, blood is thicker than water. Totally agree. Mindlessly sticking with an abusive family just because its family makes things even worse than they are in any other toxic relation. In a single phrase, money in politics. This includes those who make the bribes, those who take them, and those who support it. The "you're either with us or against us" tribalism mentality that is oh so prevalent these days. It always ends in a perpetual cycle of hatred and conflict. Also people being dishonest for the sake of coming off as a nice person. Frick that, just tell the truth even if it hurts, it's still the truth, and be self-aware about your own pros and cons. Don't be like a lot of delusional people on the internet who see themselves as the main character. We're all the same equally insignificant clumps of organic matter. Lobbyists buying politicians and causing crap laws to be passed. Bills titled in such a way that you look bad if you vote against it. Bills ending in for the children that have nothing to do with what they sound like they are for. Bill ending in for the children but actually has crappy policies that are unrelated and are snuck into laws. Alcohol ruins lives, destroys your health, causes violence and crappy decisions. We let celebrities tell us things even though a lot of them don't have a sense of reality that a lot of us live, and only push stuff that's mainstream. Even if you know that what they are saying is false, they will only say it so they don't get cancelled. Honestly, I just wish people would stop caring about the 2 cent celebrities or big figures have to say about things and just do our own research and actual thinking to come to our own conclusions. The average age of first exposure to hardcore pornography is 11. I feel like the rampant exposure of children to hardcore HD streaming should be a bigger issue, but nobody seems to care or talk about it ever. If anything, people seem to joke about it, and I don't know how I feel about that. Companies get their main profit from frisky young teenagers, so of course they don't care. Money is more important than people in this freaked up world. How all of us give a majority of our monthly earnings to rent or mortgage. I just cannot comprehend how we all just passively agree to do this. We will do this for an entire lifetime and train our children to do the same. Literally all of us do that and we are freaking slaves to it. How much would literally everyone's life substantially change for the better if we just didn't have to do that or spend such a significant amount of our time working just to go to our house apartment that we can only sleep in, with broken sleep, due to the stress of our lives? I dream of escaping this cycle, but TBH, it's not looking good for me. Every time I have issues with the way some things are done, taxes, refinancing my house, debt, college, etc., I've always expressed this to my mother and asked why nobody ever tries to change what is obviously a broken system. Her response, while not as dismissive, is usually some variation of "that's just how things are done." That mentality of just accepting things are the way they are regardless of it's how things should be is one of the most harmful things I've seen permeating societies all over the world. Most people hate uncertainty and taking risks. They are inherently less safe than the status quo, so it's easier for a lot of people to just adapt to the broken way rather than changing it and potentially making it worse. The fact that it's just Republican versus Democrat, like, there is the Independent Party and the Green Party but no one really talks about them. The voting system is designed to keep third parties down. Since people only get one vote, casting it towards a smaller party you like only makes the big party that actually has a shot do worse relative to the other one you really don't like. Politicians making one rule for the public then doing as they please. For example, days before Christmas last year the UK was put into another lockdown. It's come out this week that regardless of this, Downing Street held multiple Christmas parties, while the general public weren't allowed to spend Christmas with their families. It was such a hard time for everyone, and it really is a slap in the face that the government did this, though it's not really surprising at this point. School punishment systems. Why am I getting suspended when he hit me and I just stood there taking it until a member of staff showed up? Little girls' beauty pageants. They make them look like young adults and they shouldn't. It's creepy. Their mums are worse though. LOL. I feel like mental illness is slowly being normalized. What I mean by this is that it's seen as cool by more people than before, especially teenagers on social media. Agreed. Everyday stress, occasional doubt, periodic life challenges, these are not mental health disorders. People are naturally resilient, but I see this growing narrative that instead insists we are all traumatized and need constant support. That's not the direction we want to go in. War. I know that it may be naive to believe in world peace, but I really wish that folks would just love each other and stop fighting. So much good could be done with the world's combined military budgets, if also would like to add in murder, but that one isn't accepted. I can only imagine a world so happy as one where we treat each other with love, and the concept of murder violence is unheard of, never living afraid that someone might break into your home, shoot up your school, or kill you at a traffic stop. This reminded me of a book I read a while back called The Giver by Lois Lowry, which has a similar society. I agree though, the world would really be much better if we'd all forget war, but there's always going to be those few who decide to do crazy crap and screw everything up. That we work 40+ hour weeks for 30 years for a house. It's illegal to go into the bush and build your own home by hand, yet that's how people have lived for tens of thousands of years. I don't want to work a career away from my family my entire life just to have a house. I just want a roof over my head and land to grow food on. If I want money, I'll go trade my labor for money somewhere for a little. I shouldn't have to do it for decades just to get by. Even if I do manage to buy land somewhere remote, it's still not my land. I have to pay taxes every year on it, and my home requires permits to build and can't be a shed or something similar, as that's illegal. There's a video on YouTube of a man who bought some land and built a house himself. The land was cheap, I think. He just paid for material and it took him a year or so. Thought it was a great win for the home team. Circumcision of infant boys. Mutilating a baby without his consent, for practically no benefit, is fricked up and needs to be stopped. I don't care what a Bronze Age cult says, but baby boys need to be protected. Destroying your face with filler duck lips, botox and spider eyelashes. I have never looked at a person with any of that stuff on their face and said to myself, wow, this person looks good 9 out of 10 times. People overdo it and look terrible. We have multiple holidays dedicated to vets who served our country in addition to the largest military budget in the world, but we don't give two shoots when they are living on the streets. The fact that we allow anyone to go homeless is insane, but allowing former vets is next level crappy. Cancel culture. The fact someone thinks they are entitled to destroy someone's life and livelihood because their opinion doesn't not align with yours is absolutely appalling. Worst yet, when you're just a dang woke person who doesn't really understand anything because you're just following the woke trend. This is a bad way of putting it, but African Americans being racist towards other races and saying it's not racist. Their insert race here, typically white. Again, bad way of putting it, but IDK how else to really say it. It's something I see happen a decent amount of times already. Medical bills. I live in America for reference. A trip in an ambulance would cost me upwards of 7 grand. Frick that, I'd rather die or drive myself depending on my mood. Insulin costs are through the roof and my friend can't afford it. Medicare won't pay for my great grandmother's walker and disabled friendly tub even though she needs it, and that's what Medicare is for. I can't get my prescription anymore because it's gotten too expensive. Frick all this crap. University students dictating what can and cannot be taught and students being allowed to skip exams when their person loses an election. Yes, this. The first thing that came into my mind is plastic surgery. I'm not entirely against it and have my own insecurities I'm thinking about altering, but it's way too normalized for the risks it entails. You can die, be botched or suffer from pretty bad side effects. All of these fake genders that don't even mean anything. Like if someone said they were vanagender, no one would even bat an eye, no matter how stupid or false it is. Vanagender. Ah yes, the pronouns is gold experience requiem or gold experience. The fact that Americans can make any untalented idiot rich and famous. Example, Cardi B. The fact that I'm the United States people spend years in college for a career, then start those careers and spend a lifetime to make decent money. Then in the world we live today, a 20-year-old all they have to do is pick up a baseball bat to throw a football and get signed for hundreds of millions of dollars for a few years. Or some untalented idiot picks up a microphone, uploads a video to YouTube and overnight, the sheeple makes them famous. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.